The commemoration of the American Civil War is a statement of American memory, with repercussions in local and regional history. People have shaped memories of the war according to their political, social and cultural needs. Starting with the Gettysburg Address and dedication of the Gettysburg Cemetery in 1863, Confederates, both veterans and women, were especially active in forging the myth of the lost cause of the Confederacy. Memorial Day. Most of the war dead are buried at Arlington National Cemetery and other national cemeteries near the battle zones. Memorial Day originated shortly after the American Civil War to commemorate the Union and Confederate soldiers who died in the Civil War. The Confederates set up a different day at first but then merged it into the national holiday. By the 20th century, Memorial Day had been extended to honor all Americans who have died while in the military service. Lost cause of the Confederacy. The Lost Cause is the literary and intellectual movement that sought to reconcile the traditional white society of the South to the defeat of their new nation. Gallagher and Nolan say, the architects of the Lost Cause acted from various motives. They collectively sought to justify their own actions and allow themselves and other former Confederates to find something positive in all-encompassing failure. They also wanted to provide their children and future generations of white Southerners with a correct narrative of the war. Grant's tomb. The death of General Ulysses S. Grant in 1885 was the occasion for commemoration. A funeral train carried the body to New York City, where 250,000 people viewed in the 2 days prior to the funeral. His pallbearers included Union Generals William Tecumseh Sherman and Philip Sheridan, Confederate Generals Simon Bolivar Buckner and Joseph E. Johnston, Admiral David Dixon Porter, and John A. Logan, the head of the GAR. His body was laid to rest in the General Grant National Memorial, the largest mausoleum in North America. Attendance at the New York funeral topped 1.5 million. Ceremonies were held in other major cities around the country. Gettysburg Battlefield. The Gettysburg Battlefield, dedicated by President Lincoln, who presented his iconic Gettysburg Address there in November 1863, contains hundreds of memorials to the regiments that fought there. Army veterans created the Gettysburg Battlefield Memorial Association in 1864, making it one of the earliest historic preservation organizations in the U.S. The battlefield is under the control of the National Park Service and is a major tourist destination. Lincoln Memorial. The Lincoln Memorial in Washington was dedicated in 1922. It has become one of the most visited war memorials. It has been the site of many famous celebrations of freedom, most notably Marian Anderson's 1939 concert and Martin Luther King's 1963 "I Have a Dream" speech. American Civil War Centennial. The shadow of ongoing conflict over American civil rights affected implementation of the 100-year commemorative activities. Neither Congress nor President Dwight D. Eisenhower were interested in a risking debate over a single, unified, national theme for the commemoration, so the official interpretive work was carried out by the various state commissions. At the National Commission, key members urged different priorities. Emory University professor Bell I. Wiley recommended a major effort to document and preserving information from historic letters, newspapers and public documents. Ulysses S. Grant III, the first chairman, wanted to emphasize large-scale events that appealed to the public, such as sham battles or reenactments. Businessman Carl Betts, the first executive director of the commission, looked for ways it could spur economic development. They all agreed on a Cold War consensus to the effect that all good Americans were ideologically united, with the result that potentially divisive civil rights issues were not emphasized. The National Park Service was in overall charge. It wanted Congress to appropriate more money to re-landscape and interpret major battlefields along traditional lines. The post office issued a series of non-controversial commemorative stamps to mark the centennial. The state commissions took a sectional perspective, using different keywords and phrases to reflect their viewpoints, and sponsored and encouraged different public memorials and activities. Segregation was still in effect, but it was under heavy attack by the civil rights movement. The Southern states presented their official view that the infrastructure of Jim Crow and segregation was an organic reflection of a distinctive, Southern, way of life. Many white Southerners responded with enthusiasm to invitations to celebrate their heritage, which they saw as one of courage on the battlefield and continuity afterwards. For the first time, many Americans, especially white Southerners, volunteered or were recruited into historical reenactment groups that performed pageants and recreations of Civil War battles, field maneuvers, and encampments.